This is the Slots and Sockets podcast and episode number 19, and I'm stumbling a little bit. I'm one of your stumbling hosts, IRD Moose, and my bright partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin.
Hey, happy Wednesday, Turbo Penguin. We got a bit of a special episode today, recording on Wednesday of all days, because we've had some news come out about Intel and Alder Lake. But first, driver updates.
AMD.
Oh, and AMD too.
Drivers. Okay,
AMD
so yeah, we do. AMD has a new driver, 2410.1. That came out the 18th. We got NVIDIA just released yesterday a new graphics driver, and Intel Arc still has driver updates. Apparently, there's a talk that they're going to actually have Battle Mage actually going to come out. Now, it seems like it's going to be really late, but we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah, see if it's a glass cannon or an actual performer. So Let's dive into it.
Let's go in really quick. I'd like to start with good news. So good news is we saw some photos. Yep, we need some good news. We saw some photos of the box of the 9800X3D, and people were very quick to point out that it was talking about 3D vCache Gen 2. And we've had some leaks of MSI in the BIOS with a turbo boost option for 3D vCache. So there is definitely something cooking in the vCache side of things. We had talked about this, and I had said this is not just another 3D. This is going to be 3D v2.
Yep.
Which we called correct. So it looks like that's correct. But the other thing that they were saying is in the notes on the MSI motherboard is that 3D turbo boost option will also work on 7800X3D. So very interesting. Now we don't have details of what that is, but you get a speed boost. I always like turbo boost.
Right?
Who doesn't want a turbo boost? So I just want there to be an LCD that says turbo when it's on.
Right. Yeah, we did mention that before, the old school beige box cases.
I know.
Oh, man.
Anyways,
it's a good time.
That looks really good. And I do believe some of the stuff we've seen might be a little sandbaggy on the AMD side of things. But keep in mind the stuff that we've seen are synthetic benches where the 3D vCache is good but does not shine. The 3D vCache is going to shine in games and mixed workloads, not low workloads or highly intensive workloads like some of the Cinebenches, the different synthetic tests. They're not going to be bad. That's not going to slow things down. But where they're really going to do well is when it gets into gaming. So, and some of the numbers are starting to look, and we're seeing more consistent numbers. So it looks like 4.7 base and boosting up, with all core up to 5.2. Could we see a boost to 5.5? Now, here's the thing. If you can get 5.5 gigahertz all core, that thing is just going to annihilate everything. Now, and then if you can go higher, because we will get overclocking on this. If you can overclock this and get this 5.8, 5.7, God forbid you get 6.0. If you can get 6 gigahertz on that platform, that is going to get you through a good 6 to 10 years gaming performance wise. That's going to be just a beast of a machine.
Yeah. So I would classify that as a barn burner. I mean, it's a heck of a part if all this stuff comes out to true. But we will see for sure once the silicon hits the pavement. So looking forward to that.
So that's it for good news. we are done with good news.
All right, time to break out the sad violins.
I know, right? Sad violins. So what did we say Intel needed to do in the next CPU release, we said you have to do two things. You've got to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the second thing?
Uh,
It has to work
they
flawlessly.
they they can't suck.
They can't suck.
Guess what they're failing on?
Both of those. It's
Intel. The heck?
really, really interesting. So now, first and foremost, okay, we got to take this with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got enough rumors kind of rolling around from different people that you kind of start piecing one and two together.
Yeah.
If you hear 7 different people saying the same thing, maybe there's some truth to that. Yeah. Now we'll find out here in what, 5-6 days, right?
Yeah, I think it's a week, less than a week. Yeah.
So it's kind of, we'll see this. Now, first and foremost, anyone who believes any slides from AMD or Intel, you failed miserably.
Yeah.
Independent reviews are what you should be looking at. And it is my understanding the independent reviews are going to absolutely just trash,
deservedly so too, because from some of the stuff that I picked up, mostly from Moore's Law is Dead, is that, we're seeing stability issues, we're seeing performance issues, we're seeing weird issues with anti-cheat, detecting the CPU itself as a cheating device.
Even just like basic stuff like, not not be able to replicate the same result.
Yeah.
Like, and having swings in performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the problem is that like if everyone had the same, or the problem is that everyone's kind of complaining about the same type of stuff where you get crashes. Now, AMD had issues, and Hardware Unboxed came out and said they were having issues with their chip, and it wasn't that they were crashing, it was just that it was slow.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing of things that are bad now. The problem is that the narrative that is going to come out come review day is this isn't finished, this isn't ready, this has got problems. And I think the narrative is and again, I don't have these pieces, I do not test with them, I don't know anything about it, but the release, pre-release from the name of Turbo is that these are going to be slow. They're going to be slightly efficient. Well, let me rephrase it. They're going to be more efficient than Raptor Lake, but I mean, that's going to be really hard. I mean, you go back to Bulldozer when you were using 600 watts on a chip,
right.
Right.
Well,
but
and the other
it's
thing
hard
is,
to make it worse.
that's the thing is, like, is it really more efficient? Because some of the chatter that's going around out there is that the 7800X3D is beating the 285K, or even the 13900K. Like, you're talking a 2-generation regression in performance. And I think Tom's quote probably says it the best. It sounds like it might be a combination of incredibly borked software at launch and incredibly borked microcode. And the thing that really frustrates me, because I worked at Intel, I validated a lot of the parts up to Kaby Lake. And if we had seen anything even remotely like this, now granted, our team didn't do a whole lot with desktop parts, but we did some. And if we had seen anything even remotely like this, our team alone would have put a stop to production, or at least a stop on the release until we could fix this crap. And that actually kind of upsets me that this would get out to reviewers like this.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either, but it upsets me.
No, it doesn't surprise me. No, I mean, look, this is the reason why nobody and their grandmother should ever pre-order anything.
Yep.
Ever. Software, games, whatever it is, you just shouldn't pre-order it. You shouldn't buy it. How pissed off people would have been if they had pre-ordered, you know, the 9900X thinking it was going to be faster, or the 9600X, or whatever it is that that they were all upset about. This is why you wait for third party people who sit there and are gamers that look at this and say, this is good, this is bad.
Yep.
Look, we don't have firsthand knowledge that these things are good or bad.
Yeah.
But you can start seeing when you start seeing people come out there and be like, hey, this doesn't look good. Like, and the problem is if you have enough people saying, hey, this doesn't look good, that tells you that there is a consistency thing, that there's maybe this isn't good.
Right.
And look, in all honesty, I think we're going to focus, and unfortunately for Intel, it's going to be focusing on where it fails. It's not going to be efficient. They're saying it's going to use 160, 180 watts less.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You're almost using as much power as AMD.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, that's
Right.
and it's like, great. So I'm not having to use 400 watts just to run my CPU, and I'm not having to fry it just to get a speed record. What we're hearing, and I think one of the things we're going to see here with Arrow Lake is 14900K should have never been that fast. It should have, should have never been a thing. 13900K was pushing it. It still freaking fried itself, and this is those generations learning from those failures and saying, okay, we really can't push it that far. It's my understanding that we're going to see lower clocks on the ring bus, lower voltage on the ring bus. It's I don't think it's going to fry it, but when your review notes come out and the notion is at the conclusions that say, yeah, it's an Intel processor. Yes, it turns on. Yeah, it doesn't, it didn't fry itself. It still works today, which is a miracle. But it's slow, it's buggy, and it doesn't come through with the efficiency claims like I think that Intel wants people to compete. See, because I think that Intel very much chose, and I think when you actually the thing is that they're gonna compare the 285K to a 7800X 3D and a 9900X 3D and a 7950X 3D, and those processors are going to spank the 285K.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think what's the best case scenario here? Okay, yeah, on medium to light workloads, we're okay.
Yeah.
We get screwed when we need power, but we can't pull it. I mean, it's almost like, you know what it feels like? It feels like this is a laptop chip. Does it not feel like it? It's not great because I can't give it power. It's not great because it doesn't boost very fast. It's okay at medium to light workloads, but once you really kind of give it to it, it's going to be it's not going to be great. It just feels like a compromise on every which way, shape, and form. You know what? Maybe a 285K owner would be like someone who really is good with Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, I don't get the sense it's a laptop chip. I get the sense that Intel was super gun shy, because if you look at the leaked materials that we had last week, it shows Intel pulling the bullshots game of saying, oh, we've got better performance than this part. But, you look at their fine print and, oh, they gimped AMD to single channel memory and default speed and capped it at 125 watts. And the Intel, the 285K was running at 225 or 250. And, I'm okay with seeing what it can do at 250 watts, but the fact that they had to go so horribly out of their way and have the world's worst PC builder, no, not Dell, not Dell. Build them a system with an AMD part that just should never have existed in that configuration, just to produce numbers that they could beat. I think speaks volumes to their confidence on the quality of their part and the way they actually feel about the performance. Because, nothing in that material was honest once you started drilling down at the actual data that they put out there. And yeah, to be
Well,
fair,
but
it was a leak. It was supposed to be internal stuff, but you know, it, the people inside Intel don't seem to be too happy with what's going on either.
now here's the thing: we've seen some high power usage screenshots of Arrow Lake.
Mm-hmm.
If you overclock this thing will use a little bit less than the stock clocks at Raptor Lake,
Right.
370 watts. So this has the ability to really juice it. Now the question is that I think when you juice it on these, I think we're not going to see the returns that we saw, because I believe that some internal stuff like the ring bus and some other pieces that they've had to compromise to get this to work really well
Mm-hmm.
are going to kind of throttle this, so that when you add a bunch of power, it's still going to be kind of limited in what we're going to see performance wise. So as you
Right.
give it more juice, it'll use it, but it's not going to necessarily go faster, because
Mm,
I think it's going to have some restrictions. You know,
maybe. Maybe I don't think the ring bus is going to play as big a factor in that as you might
but
think, because they
no, but
have
what I'm
split the
saying
ring
is you're
bus
going to
off.
have something in you've got other pieces
Right.
that are going to limit what and how fast this thing will go.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's just
it's a
like in your
chiplet
car.
too. Yeah.
Well, but if it's just like your car. If I put in 185 octane fuel, will it run? Yeah. Is it going to be any faster? No.
No.
Now,
But
if
you
I
got
try to
bragging
put
rights.
regular, but if I put regular gas in a top fuels dragster, it won't even run. And so that's where I think the issue is that I think this is just a normal everyday car. I don't think there's anything special. I think that the 13900Ks were kind of little rocket ships where if you gave it some boost, it would be like it was properly quick, and you can
Yeah.
overclock those really well. The prior X3Ds were not they didn't overclock. You
Nope.
got what you got.
Nope.
So it'll be very interesting. I'm interested on AMD side to see a how much of a performance boost we're going to get X3D wise, because I do believe that Gen 2 3D is not something to be taken lightly. I do believe that'll be good, and I believe that with time that X3D is going to get better with software as it matures,
Mm-hmm.
especially because it's a second gen.
Yep.
um and if you can get, oh my goodness, if you can get, I mean, we're not asking for a lot. If our boost clocks are at 5.4, 5.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
If if you could get into a water cooler and get that to 6, oh,
Mm-hmm.
8
Especially
core
with the
6,
3D vCache.
3D vCache.
Well, and as we've got new updates coming for Windows soon, we can probably expect to see some improvements in performance with utilizing processors with the vCache too. So, there's going to be improvements there, I'm sure. And so, if you have been holding off for that 9800X3D to come out, it's starting to sound more and more like it was a wise call. Because I mean, for me, there wasn't a whole huge amount of draw for going to the 5800X3D because on my own system, or going to a 7800X3D, largely because my 5800X is doing the job. Yeah, I
Mhm.
might be losing a fair bit of performance in games, but it is it worth dropping a fat stack of cash on another CPU?
So
No, not really. I'm because I'm not getting any real new features, and I have to
no,
reinstall the OS anyway.
All I would say for AM4 people, you're going to have a lot of people with 5800X3Ds
Mm-hmm.
where the 9800X3D is going to be a big enough of a jump where
Yeah.
they'll do it.
Yeah.
And they'll jump at that and be like, thank you very much. Because it is I think from the 5800X3D is a generational. Now, if you're on the 7800, I don't think people are going to necessarily jump as much. I think it's going to be a boost. I think when it's said and done, I think at launch, if I had to pin a number, I'm going to say 16% faster than the 7800X3D compared to the 98. I think we're going to see a good bump. I don't think we're going to see a 30% or a 25%,
Right.
but I think we're going to see a healthy bump. And I would go out there to say, though, I believe that's a moving target because I think it's 7, 15, 16, 17 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could get into the low 20s with some microcode. Look, the honest truth is that if anyone buys either of these systems, it's really simple. You need to be looking at BIOS updates for either the Intel or the AMD variants
Yep.
because there are going to be, I mean, it sounds like Intel needs to because their stuff just isn't going to work very well or at all, or it's going to be crappy. And I think that on the AMD side, now granted, we're not hearing anything from AMD. I don't know if it's because they're tight-lipped or they haven't started allowing people um, to do reviews. But
Mm-hmm.
I really think that when the day after Intel reviews, I think we're going to get a flood of really accurate leaks. I think we're
Mm.
going to get just, and I don't think that these are leaks. I think AMD is going to be like, all right, you guys can talk about it. They're
Yeah.
just going to lift the NDL at once and be like, you can say whatever you want. You can show it working. You can give benchmarks. You can even compare it to 285. We don't care because they know at that point it's like, yep, this is the version we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think right now, just with all the preliminary news, it looks like Intel is going to be our loser again for this generation. I mean, Intel at first with the 13th and 14th gen was looking pretty good until the processors started cooking themselves.
Okay,
And,
so
now it was Intel's game to lose, and it looks like they
lost.
decided to lose it.
So real quick,
Yeah.
okay, review day comes and reviews come out, and the notion is they're buggy, they're a little weird. We've got some weird things. Don't buy it. Wait. If that's the notion, and I sort of think that that might be kind of what some of these reviews are going to say,
Mm-hmm.
positive, negative, from a gamer's perspective.
Oh, hugely negative. I think that's going to tank. I don't know about market share, but it's dang sure going to tank Intel's mind share, because
Okay, so
gamers are going to remember. Well, we just had two full generations of garbage CPUs.
three.
What the heck, Intel? Now we got a third.
Third, yeah. Okay, so then the follow-up question I have is, okay, if that's as bad as it is, okay, and let's just say worst case scenario, it's bad. Okay, let's just say it's bad. Does this delay you going back to Intel another generation? You say, okay, that one sucks. Even if they fix it with microcode, do you look at this and be like, yeah, I'm not a guinea pig. Do you
Yeah, I
wait
mean
one
it.
more? Do you wait for what for them to come out and say, you know what, just give me something that doesn't suck, and maybe I'll think that that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to see two generations in a row that don't suck, and that second generation that doesn't suck is where I might consider buying them if they're competitive. Uh, with what's been going on with Intel, I don't see that happening. I hope it does, because like I've said multiple times, uh, AMD needs Intel as much as Intel needs AMD, because they've got to have that competition to keep from getting broken up. And, not just that, but to keep the industry moving forward and keep Qualcomm and Samsung at bay with their ARM stuff. And, I mean, if we wind up with AMD being the only trustworthy CPU manufacturer in the game, I mean, that's okay, at least for now, but Intel's got to step up. It's at this point, it's not a question of can they, it's a question of do or die, I think. At least on their CPU market, for consumer desktops.
Well, and there's not a lot of good news on the data center side and the commercial side for CPUs. They're struggling, and AMD. I mean, when it comes to the business side of things, it really is the perform, and that's how you sell. You beat your competitor, and it looks like Intel's way of trying to sell and market their data center stuff is dual GPUs, but use really expensive RAM and 3-4 times the power, and you then equal one AMD EPYC. And they're like, nobody in their
Yep.
right mind is going to do that.
Especially when you can have like 4 sockets of EPYC running, way more compute than Intel could in the same form factor.
It's bad I mean, look, it is amazing. The honest truth is that pre-COVID, had I told you that that this is about to flip, where Intel is going to be viewed as the absolute garbage pile, and AMD was viewed as the gaming king.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone would believe us 3-4 years ago.
No,
we're that far ahead.
I could see the possibility of it happening because, I had personal experience working at Intel, and, you could see how they just got caught with their pants down with Ryzen. And, they just didn't have an answer because they just kept releasing the same part over and over again. And, so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily believed it, but I would have said, yeah, I could see that as a possibility. But, that's why none of this is really surprising to me. It's very disheartening. I don't like seeing that be the case. Not to say that I'm an Intel fanboy of any kind. It's, they had quite a long time where they earned the top spot. But, once we got to Broadwell and, the parts after that, they kind of got stuck in this rut of repeated, releasing the same part over and over and over again because they just abandoned the TikTok that they were working on. And yeah, it hasn't been a good several years for Intel, and it just seems to be getting worse. So on that bombshell, I think it is time to call it a show and thank everybody for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our show here down the doobly-doo, and do all the algorithmic goodness. And while you got a chance, go ahead and give the guys over at Moore's Law is Dead a subscribe to after you subscribe to us, because they were a pretty big source for this show. And until next time, everybody, thanks for watching. Have fun storming the castle.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.